Hello and welcome to another episode of Chuchu's Ranker. On this episode we're going to be continuing our albums of the year list. This time it's the year of 2000, so a whole new decade is sprawling out in front of us. Great times, and as an individual year, the year of 2000, it's kind of a middling year. It's not one of the strongest years in the world, and it's also not one of the weakest either. As usual, I have 10 really great records for you on this list, although I will say this list is kind of a little bit stagnant. I think this is like one of the least progressive lists that I've made. So on this one, we're kind of like waving goodbye to the old guard rather than ushering in like the new. And it kind of makes me wish there was a bit more new blood on the list. But, you know, it can't really be helped because the trend at the time was like new metal and skate punk. So all that kind of like Blink 182, Limp Bizkit, Linkin Park type stuff. And to be honest, that's not really my bag. So it can't be helped. Anyway, I'm rambling. So without further ado, let's be complete rankers and rank up a storm. These are my personal top 10 albums of the year of 2000. So we're going to be kicking off this list with Sing When You're Winning by Robbie Williams, which was his third solo studio album and arguably his best record. Although it's not a cut and dry thing, I think his previous album, I've Been Expecting You, is perhaps a little more consistent on the whole, but this one definitely has the higher peaks. Whatever Robbie Williams' best song is, it's probably on this record, and yet there is just tons of good material on this. The opener, Let Love Be Your Energy, just completely capturing that heavy kind of Britpop vibe, really, really cool. Supreme is just a really epic pop song. Love that kind of sampled string section from I Will Survive, like really, really cool. Kids, the duet with Kylie Minogue is just euphorically bouncy, even though it has that really totally awful, like, I'm an honorary Sean Connery rap on the back end of it. Just really awful stuff. And talking about really awful stuff, you have the rap song Rock DJ, which is just has the worst rapping you've ever heard in your life, but somehow that's so bad that it just kind of bends back around on itself and ends up being good again. It's just the way he's just so confident, like with his rap, like he thinks himself like Eminem. It's just, you know, it's just fucking hilarious. Yeah, and my favourite song off of this is actually the closing track, The Road to Mandalay. For me, that is Robbie Williams' best song. Absolutely fantastic. I love the instrumentation. I love the kind of like sadness and the lyrics of it. I love the way it's blatantly ripping off the Divine Comedy. Yeah, it's just a really great way to finish the record. And also, yeah, other minor tracks on this are pretty good as well. Better Man, Forever Texas. Yeah, lots of good stuff on this. So an easy curtain jerker for this list. Next up, we have Weather Underground by Geneva, which was the band's second album, and yeah, the ghost of Britpop is hovering over this one, and this record has definitely contracted that very common virus around this time, which I like to call the post-OK Computer-itis. So yeah, this band has obviously listened to OK Computer, they've obviously loved it, they've obviously decided that they want to do something similar, so expect lots of that kind of like experimental art rock on this record. As I say, very, very Radiohead-esque, but this record is super underrated and really, really awesome and full of just absolutely spectacular tracks. Dollars in the Heavens, the opening track and lead single, is one of my favourite Britpop songs of all time. The really energetic wah-wah attack at the end of the song, one of my favourite guitar moments on any song, and the way that Andrew Montgomery's vocals just kind of like soar into the heavens during it. Mwah! Chef's kiss, just an absolute perfect moment of music. If you have to go, a really beautiful, fragile ballad, so fragile it feels like it's going to break apart at any second. Museum Mile, a kind of really sparse, epic ballad. Amnesia Valley, like really, really rocking song, really cool. Guidance System is really catchy. Rockets Over California, beautiful piano ballad. And the closing track, Have You Seen the Horizon Lately? None more Radiohead. Yeah, really kind of like post-rock, minimalist, really, really awesome. So this is, as I've already said, a vastly underrated record. If you don't know this one, you should definitely check it out. Great stuff. Next up we have Parachutes, which was the debut album by a very minor, small indie band that you've probably never heard of called Coldplay. And yeah, this is a really great debut album by them. I really love the guitar tone on this. It like feels really kind of stripped back, but also distorted and really rocking at the same time. It's really cool production technique, and it kind of makes the guitars on this sound really unique. And this is just filled with tons of great songs. The opening track, Don't Panic, just immediately sets out the stall. And these songs, I should say, have like a lot of space on them. There's lots of like clean lines, everything is given room to breathe, and I really like that. It kind of has a deep kind of melancholia to these songs. Like I say, just brought out really well by the production on this. I'm a big fan of the production of this record. Shiver is really rocking, that's a really awesome track. Spies and Sparks, super atmospheric. Yellow, of course, huge hit. Ugh, there goes my minor indie band joke. But yeah, a huge hit, really anthemic, really fun. Trouble, beautiful piano ballads, absolutely classic. I do think there are maybe a couple filler tracks on the back end of this album, but yeah, overall, fantastic start, which sets out the stall very nicely from Coldplay. And it's always nice to see someone walk up to Travis and eat their lunch right in front of them while they cry in the corner and then abscond with their girlfriend. Good stuff from Coldplay here. Next up we have Fold Your Hands Child, You Walk Like a Peasant by Belle and Sebastian, which was the band's fourth album, and this is the one that comes directly after their huge award-winning breakout smash, The Boy with the Arab Strap. And yeah, I'm gonna have to go against critical consensus on this, because I think this record is generally considered to be like a weak link in their early career, but for me, I like this record significantly more than the previous Belle and Sebastian albums. There are 11 tracks on this. I love every single one of them. I don't think there's any dead air on this record whatsoever. And on this record, they're playing a lot with minimalism. And yes, I know that Belle and Sebastian are a kind of minimalist band in general, but here they're doing it with much more professionalism and in a much more interesting way, playing with silence and space. The opening track, I Fought in the War, is unbelievably catchy. Beyond the Sunrise has these kind of like stripped back arpeggiated acoustics, like really awesome. Waiting for the Moon to Rise is a beautiful female-led ballad. Don't Leave the Light On Baby is the album highlight for me. Beautiful keyboards and organs on that. Again, that minimalism, really cool. The Shall I lines sounds like a beautiful piano ballad, but is actually about rape and sexual abuse. So yeah, pretty disturbing on a lyrical level and a really interesting song. Nice Day for a Soak is super atmospheric, and Family Tree, another female-led vocal effort. Like, I love the stop-start acoustic guitar in that. It's unbelievably catchy. So yeah, I really love this record. I think it's underrated, and I don't think it has a weak bone in its body. Awesome stuff here from Belle and Sebastian. Next up, we have the Marshall Mathers LP by Eminem, which is a multi-million selling rap record. And Eminem, he's an incredibly talented rapper. And man, the lyrics off of this record, like, they wouldn't fly today. Hell, I'm not even sure they flew back then, because this is a very controversial record. On this record, subjects like rape and incest and murder and domestic violence and drug taking, like all that kind of like taboo stuff, just thrown liberally about here. A lot of critics said that this record has like emotional depth, that Eminem was kind of like shining a spotlight on this kind of really seedy underbelly of society or whatever in a kind of serious way, but I think that's all bullshit. I don't think that's the case at all. I think Eminem is just having fun with it, basically. This is just like his version of Scarface. It's all controversial and it's over the top and it's bloody. And he's just basically taking the piss off society and also the people who find that stuff controversial. He's just purposely needling them. One of my favorite moments on the record is the final track, where he responds to that kind of criticism. You know, it opens with a vocal sample where he's saying, you know, people often ask me, do I believe in this shit? You know, do I mean what I say? And if you're going to ask me that, I'm gonna kill you too because I'm criminal. And it just makes me laugh every single time I hear that song. And that's just a microcosm for the whole album. It's just Eminem just taking the piss and trying to wind you up, and it's tons of fun, and there are tons of really great tracks on this. Kill You, just really ridiculous, just saying about how he's gonna murder bitches. Stan, of course, a really fantastic lyrical masterpiece about like a deranged fan. Really, really awesome. The Real Slim Shady, of course, incredibly catchy. Yeah, just basically this entire record is great. The rapping is on point. I think it's super funny and super controversial. It'll make your mother just kick you out the house, basically, if you just start playing this. And like I say, the final track, Criminal, absolutely love it. Fantastic stuff here from Eminem. So we're going to be kicking off this top 5 with Kid A by Radiohead, which is a stamped and dated masterpiece. This is a first ballot choice when people talk about the record of the year of 2000, and yeah, this record finds Radiohead struggling to follow up their masterpiece OK Computer. I mean, how do you follow up such an influential record like that? There must have been a ton of weight on the shoulders of the band, and they reacted by basically ditching the guitars and heading into experimental electronica. And here you have a set of really kind of like paranoid, immersive beats and electronica. A lot of the details are like hidden underneath the surface. This is a record that the more you listen to it, the more the songs kind of reveal themselves. This is the very definition of a grower. And for me personally, when I first heard this record, when it was released, I didn't like it at all. I had no idea what Radiohead were trying to achieve. But eventually it got its claws in, and now I absolutely love it. I love its soundscape, I love its atmosphere, I love the way, as I mentioned, that, every time you listen to it, you can kind of pick up on smaller new details in the background that you hadn't noticed before. It's a really, really cool album and plenty of great tracks on it. I love the creaking bass of the national anthem. How to Disappear Completely is really atmospheric. Idiotech is actually really catchy, and Motion Picture Soundtrack has these orchestral swells. So the question is, why isn't this higher on the list? Well, as good as this record is, it's a specific record for a specific time, and I don't often feel like I want to listen to music like this. And to be honest, when I do want to listen to music like this, I usually go for its follow-up, Amnesiac, which I just prefer over this record. I know that's not a popular choice, but that's just how I feel about them. So yeah, if I'm going to listen to a record like this, I definitely go for Amnesiac, which leaves this in a place where I don't really listen to it very much, but I do respect it. It is a classic and an easy placing on this list. Next up, we have Stories from the City, Stories from the Sea by PJ Harvey, which was her 4th album. And this album was a huge critical success for PJ Harvey and won her the 2001 Mercury Prize Award. And actually, PJ Harvey is the only artist in history to win that award twice, once for this record and later for her 2011 album Let England Shake. What is the Mercury Music Prize Award? I don't know, and I'm too lazy to research basically, but I do know that it's a prestigious award that really kind of helps up-and-coming artists' career. And yeah, this is a really awesome record. On this one, PJ Harvey is making a kind of concept album about her connection and love of New York City. And yeah, I love the production on this record. This record is really heavy and energetic, yet it gives the songs space to breathe and lets the atmospheric details of the songs kind of rise to the surface. I think it's just a really cool sounding album. And PJ Harvey, as always, has that kind of really badass, kind of punky swagger on this. It's just a really damn cool record, start to finish, and plenty of great tracks on it. Opening track, big exit, singing about owning guns and pistols, and yeah, it's just absolutely badass. The Whore's Hustle and the Hustler's Whore, really atmospheric. The Mess We're In features Tom York in a duet with PJ Harvey. I think they use him really, really well on this track as well. I think PJ Harvey and Tom York just combine really well. You Said Something in an incredibly romantic song. Kamikaze, love the heaviness and the drums on that, really cool. And my favorite track on this is the final track, We Float. It's a really good example of like minimalist verses bolstered by a huge soaring chorus. It works really, really well and a great way to close the record. Oh, and also a quick shout out to the single This Is Love, because that's really rhythmic and cool as well. So yeah, this is just a fantastic record start to finish, no bad songs on it, and yeah, it's easily one of PJ Harvey's best records and a strong contender on this list. Coming in third place and taking home the bronze medal, we have Black Market Music by Placebo, which was the band's third album. And yeah, Placebo fans out there might well be scratching their head right now because this record isn't regarded as one of Placebo's strongest. In fact, Brian Moko himself regards this as his least favorite Placebo album, but I don't know, you're just gonna have to put this one down to bad taste, I guess, because I just absolutely fucking love this record. For me personally, this is just a much more satisfying album than the first two records. I just think everything they do on here, they're doing just a little bit better than they did it before. Like the anthemic type of tracks on this, Slave to the Wage, Black Eyed, Special K, Tasting Men, I just like those tracks more than the comparative tracks like Pure Morning, Without You I'm Nothing, Every Me, Every You, Bruised Pristine. I think they absolutely nail that aspect of this, like the really kind of overtly catchy tracks. But also, the thing that really puts this over the top for me is the emotional connection I have with this record. I think that's rare for this type of album to affect me on an emotional level, but this one really does that for me. Tracks like Passive Aggressive, Commercial for Levi, Narcoleptic, Peeping Tom. I love the kind of like emotional fragility of those tracks, and I love the kind of soundscape to them. Yeah, those tracks just kind of speak to me and I get something out of them on an emotional level. And talking about getting stuff on an emotional level, Black Eyed, I already just mentioned it in the anthemic section, but yeah, I absolutely loved that track. Like really, really awesome, and I think if my life had a theme tune, that might well be the theme tune. I mean, hey, after listening to that song, who wants to date me, huh, ladies? No takers? Yeah. Also, Slave to the Wage as well, just unbelievably catchy, just makes me want to scream out the chorus, just, yeah, really rocking, really cool. And my favourite track off of this is probably Spite and Malice. I mean, after you've heard that kind of opening phrase, dope, guns, fucking in the streets, like how can you ever get that out your brain? It's just insidiously catchy, and I think the rap is really tastefully done, and the way that Brian Mokel's vocals kind of soar over the top of the rap, really, really awesome stuff. Mwah, chef's kiss for that. So yeah, this is a great record, I love it. I know not everybody agrees with me on this one, but yeah, this is an easy placing on the list for me. Silver medal time, and the silver medal is going to go to Brave New World by Iron Maiden. So yeah, this is Iron Maiden's famous kind of bounce back, return to form type record. I think it's fair to say that Iron Maiden had a pretty rough 1990s. So with this record, they definitely had a lot to prove. And this is also a reunion album as well, I should note, because they brought back their popular vocalist Bruce Dickinson and also guitarist Adrian Smith, which reforms the kind of classic lineup from the 1980s, plus also the interim guitarist Janet Gers also stayed on. See Iron Maiden transformed into a six-piece here. And yeah, on this record, they're completely reinvigorated, re-energized. They just feel like they want to take on the world. And this record just brings back that kind of sound from the 1980s, that classic Iron Maiden sound, just updates it with modern production and heaviness, and it's just absolutely badass. This record is awesome from start to finish, great roster of tracks. It's an hour and 7 minutes long, that's too long, but what would you take off of this? There's nothing to take off of this because everything is absolutely banging. Tons of great tracks. The opening song, The Wicker Man, just immediately in there with the heaviness and the catchiness. Ghost of the Navigator, just incendiary guitar riffs, just really, really rocking. Brave New World, incredibly catchy. Blood Brothers, actually pretty emotive for an Iron Maiden song. Dream of Mirrors brings back that old kind of epic nature from the 80s. The Nomad, I absolutely love the Eastern guitar riffs on that. So this is just Iron Maiden on fire once again. And I feel that this record is also incredibly important for the band, because without this, I think the band's legacy would have been completely different. They wouldn't have been able to maintain their kind of modern career if this record hadn't been as successful as it was. So yeah, really important record for the band, an absolutely awesome return to form, and yeah, easily one of the best albums of the year of 2000. So here we are at the top of the mountain, and the gold medal for the year of 2000 is going to go to 100 Broken Windows by Idlewild, which was the band's second album. And here you have more of that kind of Smiths-esque, REM-esque, Teenage Fanclub-esque pop punk with the bookish, emotionally astute lyricism of Roddy Womble. And yeah, I absolutely fucking love this record. This is also a stamped and dated cult classic and widely regarded as Idlewild's best record. And just to put it out there, Idlewild are personally one of my favourite bands of all time as well, so that's definitely also an aspect of this going top of the list here. And yeah, this record has 12 tracks on it. I love every single one of them. This record is like really heavy and anthemic, yet also leaves space for these songs to breathe. It also has like a spacious kind of nature to it. Sounds very wintry, very kind of sad and resigned at times, yet other times just makes you want to pogo around your bedroom. Yeah, absolutely fantastic stuff. Highlights on this, where to begin? This is an album entirely comprised of highlights, as I've already said, but yeah, the opening track, Little Discouraged, great lead single, really heavy in the chorus and anthemic, like makes you want to sing along with every single line. These Wooden Ideas just has more of like a pop edge to it. Roseability, absolutely love that one. Love the way that Roddy goes off screaming about Gertrude Stein in that song. Really, really cool. Idea track has more of a kind of experimental nature, and I just love the brute force heaviness of that song. Really, really badass. Let Me Sleep Next to the Mirror has beautiful harmonized guitar riffs. Listen to What You Got just makes you want to mosh all around your living room. Actually, It's Darkness, probably the emotional peak of the record. You know, that chorus, share a shade of shyness, just absolutely fantastic. Mwah. Chef's kiss for that. I've given 3 chef's kisses on this list. I should probably only give 1 chef's kiss per list. I should make a new rule for myself. Mistake Pageant, incredibly catchy, and the closing track, Bronze Medal, none more Scottish. Like, yeah, feels very much like it's been dragged in, kicking and screaming from the Highlands. Really like plaintive and sparse. Really love that song. So yeah, this is an absolute masterpiece for me. It's one of the most important records of my youth. It was kind of like a gateway record into heavier music. So thank you very much for Idlewild for introducing me to that world. And yeah, that's my 2000 list, but that might not be your list. Your list might look completely different. Why not sound off in the comment section and tell me all the classic records that I've missed? Like, share, subscribe, and all that kind of YouTube jazz. Make sure to check back for my 2001 list. Keep yourself healthy, but most importantly, just keep on ranking.
There's a silence in the concert.